If your strategy is working and you're still blowing evaluations, it means that you're solving the wrong problem. I burned through 5 accounts before I was able to trace it back to the actual source, and it didn't start anywhere near the charts. Once you see where the chain actually starts, the blowups make sense. So let's start where I did, not at the charts, but before it. I had to ask myself, what was the first decision in the chain, not the last one? And time again, it all traced back to the same thing. The answer was, it was never in the session. It was always starting from the night before. And once I saw what it actually looked like, it became a lot harder to ignore. For one of the evaluations that I blew, I traced it back all the way to 11 p.m. the night before. It didn't come down to a trade. It didn't come down to a broken rule. It came from delaying when I actually went to bed. So then I had to ask myself, why did I stay up later than I should have? And more often than not, it's because I was doing work that I should have completed earlier in the day. And when I look back on my to-do list, I can see that it is completely unorganized, just filled with a bunch of tasks that I said that I would do days, if not weeks before. And when I dug just a little bit deeper, I looked around me and I realized that my room was basically a mess. So now that we have the outcome of 5 blown evals, let's now look at it through the lens of the very first event. When my room is messy, my to-do list ends up unorganized, which is the first order result. And so the second order consequence is I start delaying when I do my work. And the third order consequence is when I delayed my work, I stayed up later than I said I would. And of course, when you stay up late, you feel worse the next day. You may not have the mental edge to make decisions on the spot. And so one consequence leads into another, and eventually the outcome of blown evaluations starts to make sense. This is what it looks like off the charts, but when that chain continues to run, that is how you blow up your account. I've watched it happen with someone else's trading, and it's so much easier to see it from the outside perspective. A client was talking to me about how he took a trade out of FOMO. So he saw the setup forming, he didn't want to risk not getting into the trade. So instead of following his rules, he decided to take the trade and enter. And when he did that, the worst possible outcome happened. It's not that he lost money. He actually made money on that single trade. And this, of course, is the first order consequence. 1 week later, he saw a similar trade forming. So, of course, he had the same emotions pop up, had FOMO, didn't want to miss out, so he took the trade. However, this time, he didn't make money, he lost money. And when he lost money, he didn't just walk away from the charts, no. He continued to trade, and he kept placing trades that didn't meet his strategy. And eventually, his account hit 0. So tracing back, him taking that first trade and making money off of it is the first consequence. He might not have known it yet, but that first consequence made him take the second trade. And that second trade led to the third. And eventually, he blew his account, and blowing the account is the second order consequence. The consequence that we don't know until it has already happened. The problem is, thinking of first, second, and third order consequences is a logical frame of thinking. And when you're watching your entry form, and you're feeling the emotions of having to get into this trade or else you're going to miss money, and you feel your index finger scratching to just enter the trade, all of that is when you are under an emotional state of mind, which means that you cannot think logically. So therefore, the window of being able to think logically already closed even before the session started. So let's go ahead and reframe all of this. The goal isn't to think better in the moment, it's to prevent those emotional moments from happening in the first place. To better illustrate the point of putting in the work before the moment, we can look at it through weight training. And please don't mind my extremely good example of this drawing. There's a reason why I'm a trader and not an artist. If you right now walked up to a squat rack and you put on 405 pounds on the bar, but your max is only 315 pounds, you can't just tell yourself to lift harder and to just try harder and then you'll be able to hit 405. Instead, what you would do is you would assess your training. Are you showing up consistently? Are you putting in the effort to do an extra rep compared to the session beforehand? And then you assess your sleep. right? Are you getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep every single night that you can? And then you assess something like your nutrition. That's not how you spell nutrition. So you'd look at your nutrition. Are you eating enough protein? Do you have a healthy enough diet to sustain your high intensity workouts? And when you do that long enough, then that is how you get from 315 to maybe 330 and 350, 370, and then eventually you hit 405. All of the work comes from the system before you even step under the bar in the first place. So now that you understand that a problem stems from a chain of events leading to that problem, I'll show you what I actually did to stop it. And no, it isn't something as simple as just saying, don't overtrade. I'm pretty sure all of you who are listening to this already knows that you shouldn't be doing that. So what I actually changed wasn't a rule in my trading, but rather it was the set of decisions that I had to make when I wasn't under emotional distress. So the first thing that I did is stop and look around me. Look at my room. Make sure that there's no clothes on the floor. Make sure that there's no random papers that are floating around. All of the things that I delayed because I feel like I could just push it back a little bit later, I knew that I had to solve now. And once this requirement was checked off, I moved on to the next one. When I look at my to-do list, does it look structured? Do I know what are my intentional plans for the day? Or does it just look like a bunch of random gibberish of my thoughts that I accumulated the past week, right? I want to make sure that my to-do list is nicely organized, because when it is, that's when I'm the most productive. From there, when my to-do list is organized and I'm actually doing what I said I would do, I'm able to go to sleep on time. So now, instead of delaying my bedtime by an hour, if I say I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock, I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock. And what you'll notice is that all of these elements, from a surface level standpoint, seem like they're lifestyle related, but under the surface, you'll realize that they all impact your trading. So now, as a part of my trading routine, I reference these as commandments. I don't know why. I'm not sure if you can even use them in like a non-religious setting, but anyways, I make sure that I ask myself, did I go to bed on time? Do I have a clean and completed to-do list? And lastly, do I have a clean room? If any one of these are not met, I do not trade. The hardest thing is that in the moment, if you tell yourself that you're just going to walk away for the day, there's that emotional side of you thinking, what if I miss out on profits? However, the reason why we have these lifestyle commandments is because it's the easiest time to logically make the decision to walk away. It's like the famous saying, solving the problem is the hardest it's ever been, but it's the easiest it will ever be. Trust me when I say that choosing not to trade way before you've even seen the chart is so much easier than when you're trying to walk away and the emotions are already flooding your mind and you're thinking about how much you can make and how much you can't afford to lose by sitting out on the trade that you're not supposed to take. And here's the thing, all of these commandments are my own personal observations from my mistakes. Whatever lifestyle commandments you decide to use, it can be completely dependent on what you diagnosed from your outcomes. The key point is that consistent traders aren't more disciplined in the moment. It's just that they've reduced the number of moments where discipline is required. It's easiest to think of discipline muscle almost like a resource that gets recharged. So if you come into the day being only half full, how can you realistically expect yourself to have the Zen-like discipline to execute your trades once it's already been used up? Compared to, with your lifestyle commandments, if you carried over that discipline from the day before, you just naturally show up to the day with a fuller bar or just more capital to actually execute your trades come time to perform. And as a quick note, when you are making your commandments, be as specific as you can. So instead of just saying, go to bed on time, tell yourself, I am going to bed at 9:15 p.m. And once you have your non-negotiable lifestyle commandments in place, that's when you'll start recognizing the chain way before it even begins. If any of this resonated with you and you're sitting there thinking that you're so close, but you can't quite figure out that one thing that's holding you back, I do a limited number of free audits every week. 3 spots, that's it. You tell me where you're at, what are the things you've tried, what isn't working, and you leave the call with 1 to 2 actionable steps that you can implement today. I've already walked someone throughout this exact process and I've seen their trading journey change dramatically. I can't promise that for everyone, but worst case, you leave with 1 to 2 things that, you can implement and actually help you out. But best case, one conversation can save you years of repeating the same mistakes, even saving you thousands of dollars in the process. This call will give you honest, transparent advice from an outside perspective so that you can actually see your situation more clearly. The call is completely free. Book it through the link in the description below.